Welcome to Off Air with Christy Capel. Today I have a really awesome guest, and Stacey and I go way back, and Stacey hasn't changed a bit. This is Stacey Bell. She is a global multi-platform on-camera broadcast journalist, MC, host of the podcast SuperWives of the NFL, motivational speaker, mentoring girls and young women, and also, by the way, a newsie, and that's where we go back to. She was once ours at Fox 8 News in Cleveland, but she moved on to bigger and better things as a news anchor in New York City. Stacey's husband, Anthony Lynn, is an NFL football coach for the Washington Commanders, which, by the way, are NFC champions. Yay! How are you?
I am doing well. That intro, you should come in every morning and be my hype man while I get out of bed. I need more of that in my life.
I know. It's so funny because when people you don't talk about all your accomplishments, but they're so well deserved. And when I have these guests on, I'm like, wow, you've done so much. So Stacey and I, now here's the funny story. Stacey left to go, as I said, to New York City, and she became this big star. But then that's when our morning anchor moved down at Fox 8 in Cleveland, and then I got the anchor spot on the morning show. So Stacey, if you would have never left.
That's what happened. I forgot about that.
Yes. Yeah, but we miss you. I always said Stacey was such a sweetheart, and we only, really just saw each other in the hallways. Yes. So life has been amazing for you. What do you miss about Cleveland now that you're in Washington?
Oh, that's easy. The people. In Washington, we live out in Virginia. And so Virginia and Cleveland are very similar. But I've lived places where I have missed the people and the sense of community and just feeling like you're a part of something, because you don't get that everywhere.
I agree. So Anthony coaches the Washington Commanders, but you guys live in Virginia. So you guys are always all over the place. Is that what's going on?
It's the whole DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. So it's very similar to, say, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. They're all right there. So because where we train is in Virginia, we live in Virginia. So you live very close to the training facility, like most of the Browns coaches live in Berea, because you're driving into work to the training facility every day, and you only drive to the stadium one day a week during the season. So we live in Virginia, and then one day on Sundays, we make the trek an hour and a half in traffic to and from the stadium, actually in Maryland. So we're kind of all over the place.
You are all over the place. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because with your husband being in the NFL, I feel like coaching wives, I've been one in the past. My husband was a football coach way back in the day. I grew up with, my dad was a coach. You guys deserve so much credit and things that you do to support your husband and the coaches and the team. And so I think that is a part of it. You left, went to New York City. Now you've been out of TV for a while, right?
It's been 4 years. I left right around COVID because, and this is funny, I had actually turned in my notice. I was working at WNBC in New York, which was a dream come true, going into Rockefeller every day and, seeing everybody on the Today Show in the hallways and the commissary, and just, working with people who were legendary. So we were living apart. He was out in California and I was in New York. And we had done it for about 3 years. And it just got to a point where I said, we need to be together. This is crazy. So before COVID, I had given them my notice and said, I'm leaving in March. I'm out. Well, then COVID hit and shut everything down. And there were all of these restrictions on traveling and when I could leave and what I'd have to do to get back in the building. So it worked out perfectly. I think I left New York about 2 days before the city completely shut down.
Wow.
And then I haven't worked full time since then.
That's crazy. So talk about your time in New York City. I know people watching all over the country with these podcasts are like, how do I become a Stacey Bell? How do I get to that point? But it takes a lot of hard work. Did you start in Cleveland?
No. Oh God, no. My first job was in Texarkana, Texas, and
That's
I made $15,000. Could barely pay my bills. So if you want to start being a Stacey Bell, you got to be broke and move away from your
Yeah,
that is the first place you start. So I started in Texarkana. After Texarkana, moved to Shreveport, which is like 50 miles away, worked there for 2 years, then came to Cleveland on the heels of, Greg Easterly was our news director back then. And they had hired Macy McGinnis, now Macy Jepson, from my same station in Shreveport. And
Mhm.
so kind of had an eye out for people, from Shreveport from that station. So he kind of noticed me because I came from the same station as Macy and came to Cleveland as the morning show reporter. Yeah, and spent 13 years there standing out in the snow, doing live shots, tossing back to John O'Day. I think he was gone by the time you came, but it was
Yes.
Bill, John O'Day, and I think Stephanie Schaefer was the morning anchor there. So did
Wow.
that, and then over the years, just kind of, moved up, loved it there. It was home. I just can't say enough about Cleveland.
Mhm.
It's the only place I've lived longer than the place, well, not as long. I grew up in a town in Arkansas 18 years and then 13 years in Cleveland. I've never lived anywhere longer than that.
Isn't that crazy? I'm in that same boat right now. And by the way, I know you went to University of Arkansas, Central Arkansas. So that's where my husband's family's at, and they're in the Ozark area.
Yeah, okay. That's a
Yes.
great area. I don't get back there as much. I mean, I go home to see my parents in Arkansas, but I don't get back.
Yeah. Yeah. So the careers that Stacey has picked with being in television and then married to an NFL football coach. I mean, you just all over the place. So after you leave Cleveland, you go to New York City. You mentioned going to Rockefeller Center every day, but what's it like to be a news anchor in New York City? You said it was the highlight of your career, but man, it takes hard work to get there.
It is. It's a lot of hard work. We moved there. Anthony got the job with the Jets. And so when I initially moved there, I had been a main anchor in Cleveland. And so the WNBC at the time said, we can't hire you coming from a city like Cleveland. We can't hire you as an anchor.
Mm-mm.
So I ended up going and working at a cable station on Long Island, News 12 Long Island. Great people. Did 2 years there and then was able to make the jump to WNBC. It is fun, but it's a grind because New York is really the epicenter of everything that happens in the country. So every day there is breaking news. It's not once a month, it is every day. And so it's fun, but it's exhausting. It's a grind, not to mention, oftentimes you don't just get in the car and drive to the story. You might have to take the subway or you have to meet a photographer, and when you're done, you have to navigate. How do I get home? Not everybody gets a car service. Do I take the subway? What's the best way for me to get back to my house or back to the station? So it was a
Wow.
and I met lifelong friends and I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it is definitely you grind at a different level when you're always, you have to always be on it.
Yeah. So from there, after leaving, you started a podcast, which is the whole reason I see this on social media. I'm like, Stacey Bell, SuperWives of the NFL. I'm like, what a great idea. It was so funny because when she made the announcement, it was because we need another podcast. I'm like, preach, girl. I don't know what I'm doing either and why, but what a great idea. So where did this all stem from? Like, were you sitting there one day going,
No, I wanted to do it like you were talking earlier. It had always been on my heart to do it for like 4 years. And I thought, we don't need another podcast. Like, really, I have to do a podcast, Lord. Like, this is really what you have on my heart. Um, so yeah, I wanted to do it. I had a friend encourage me. And she said to me, she said, you are qualified to tell these stories, and
"Mm,
these are your stories. So don't shy away from it. I think I had a bit of like imposter syndrome, believe it or not. I knew I could do it and I knew there were great stories, but I just thought, I don't know why should I do this?
mm."
So yeah, just for years it had been on my heart to do it. And I just said, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. I would love to make money off of it. You're not making any money, but I think there's so many cool stories and I just love telling these stories. I really do.
Oh my gosh, we are the same person. Um, so let's talk about this because some of the wives that you interview, like, they have things going on in their life. I think people on the outside looking going, "Oh, you're just married to an NFL coach or a player or whatever, and you just travel and, have fun," but they have their own careers and their own lives, and some have kids, and they're trying to manage everything. what are some of the interesting things talking to these wives that maybe us on the outside wouldn't realize how awesome they really are?
Oh, we talk about this all the time. I don't like to say that, the women are single parents because that's not true. But
Mhm.
your husband is gone a lot. So you are managing a lot of the household and the kids on your own. Yes, you've got a great income, you've got help, but it's really just you. Like my husband leaves for work, his alarm goes off at 6:15, then 6:30. So he's out the door by 6:30. I don't see him again most nights until 9 o'clock.
Wow.
So he's gone now. Fridays and Saturdays, you have a little breathing room. They're done earlier, but he is honestly gone from 6:30 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. So can you imagine, like, if we don't have little kids, thank goodness, but you're doing everything on your own, like the school drop off, the pickup, all the sports activities, dealing with the parents, the doctor's appointments, it's all on you. Not to mention it's a very volatile lifestyle. So a lot of times, you live in Cleveland, you know what the coaching cycles are like. You get
Mhm.
1 or 2 years and you're moving. So you've got to pack up the kids and get all their school stuff. And the way we do moves, he's already gone. Like when we left, where was the last place we lived? My goodness, with the 49 in the Bay
Yeah.
Area. Yeah, like we've honestly moved, I think, 4 times in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. But anyway, he left on a Tuesday. Like we got back from the Super Bowl on a Monday. On Tuesday, he said, "Okay, I'm out. I got a funeral to go to. Then I'm headed to DC to start with the Commanders." So it was basically, "I'm out. You do your thing, and I'll see you in Virginia." So
Oh.
I always move us out of the apartment and take care of all of that, the movers and everything. And then he typically picks out the new place in the new city. And then I go there to meet the movers because he's working oftentimes and can't do it. So that's just a little example.
Wow, that's crazy. So there's that side, but then there's also a wonderful side where you are your husband's who is a football coach or your husband is a player and you are their support system, right? You're the one I remember when my husband was a coach, I was the one the ear that he, was upset about something or he was um excited about something and you're the listener, and so what is that like, especially on the level of the NFL?
It takes a lot of prayer because you are the confidant, you're the person.
Mhm.
You get the thoughts the first thing in the morning and the first thing at night. Even before I'm awake and I've had coffee, I get the thoughts that are first on his mind. So
Yeah.
it takes a lot of prayer because I always want to know that if I'm telling him something, it's coming from a place of wisdom, not my selfishness, not what I want, not because I want him to stick it to somebody else, but I constantly stay in prayer that, Lord, whatever I say to him, it's what you want me to say and
Yeah.
moves him in the right direction or calms him or elevates him. Like that's what's most important to me. And that I can be aware. And I think I've done a pretty good job of this, of him confiding in me and not relaying that information to other people. That takes
Yeah.
a lot too, because I need a sounding board sometimes too. But you have to like hold their confidence close.
Yeah, and so the life of the sisterhood of the NFL wives, I mean, you guys have that bond, and so what is that like to be in that circle? We all see the stuff that's on TikTok and Instagram and the wives, kissing their players or coaches before the game and standing on the sidelines before the game and what have you, and, it you guys have a different relationship, a
Yeah.
wonderful relationship, I feel
You
like.
know what? It honestly is fun, and that's one of the beautiful things about it. Because I think in most cases, you have access to this lifestyle that you could have only dreamed of.
Mhm.
So it is a lot of fun to, like, you're walking around and you see players and you go to the facility and there's this person, like, a few years ago, I had my entire family out for it was a playoff game between the 49ers and the Cowboys, and so we were in the office afterwards, and so the players are in and out of the office, and I'm walking down the hallway with my sisters, and this player comes down the hallway, and he just has on shorts and a T-shirt and a backpack, and so I say, "Hey, so and so, congratulations, good game," and he's like, "Oh, thanks," and he speaks to my family, and he walks by, and my sister says, "That was Big Bear." And I said, "Yeah, that was Nick Bosa. She lost it. She was hurt." So that's really cool. Or we had some friends come out and they get to meet this person or, say hi to that person or take a picture with this person. That's the aspect of it that is it's like, wow, what a cool life that we get to do this and be a part of.
Yeah, yes. And what a blessing for all of you guys to be able to have, that bond and things like that going on in the office. One of the latest episodes was with Camille Phillips that I was listening to from the SuperWives of the NFL. And she's the wife of NFL player Adrian Phillips. And she really talks about balancing that family and career. And then you guys are involved in the community too. So you may have young kids at school and doing all, as you said, all the practices and stuff, but then you're trying to get out into the community, to support them with the team. So, talk about some of that, like even with Camille and what you're hearing from your podcast of just living that life and trying to juggle everything.
Camille was great. That was one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Camille, her husband played for Anthony when he coached with the Chargers. And so I would kind of see her around, but I knew she was finishing up her degree to become a doctor at the same time her husband was playing. So she was kind of back and forth. And she was one of those stories where I thought, this is such a cool story. Like her husband's a very successful player, but she's becoming a doctor. Like she
Yeah.
could just sit around and file her nails all day. She doesn't have to do this. But yeah, so there's so many stories like that. And you're out in the community. We have a foundation. So we
Mhm.
have the Lynn Family Foundation, but then you do public service things through the team as
Yeah.
well. So you're always giving back, you're always meeting people. And that's a part of it because I think most of us do feel like we've been blessed with so much. You want to make an impact, you want to give back.
Mhm.
But for I think a lot of families and the women like Camille and myself, it's also about finding your lane. What can I do? How can I be of service and not just be focused on dressing cute and doing TikTok videos, which that's all fun. There's a place for that.
Yeah.
Um, One of my previous guests was Austin Eckler's wife, and I don't know if you heard that episode, but Melanie, she's a very popular social media TikTok dancer.
Yes.
And her sister was actually featured. They were featured in the Netflix thing, It'll Hit Me Later, Dancing for the Devil or with the Devil.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So they were featured in that. But for her to come on and talk about her life as an influencer and how she's using her platform to try and do good and have fun, it's just, there's so many amazing stories.
There's so many amazing stories, and you have, gosh, how many episodes do you have so far?
Oh gosh, I feel like they're about 10. Yeah,
That's
there's
good. Do you get, like, any kind of, like, "I don't know if I wanna do it," or share any information, or are they very open with you?
Yes, there are a couple of people, like, if I said their name, big time head coaches' wives, that I would love to do it, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know. What if I say the wrong thing or, come back after the season?"
Yeah.
So, yeah, the people are a little concerned. There was a friend of mine that I wanted to interview, because we've been on so many teams, and I have so many, friends that I know in this business.
Mhm.
But I wanted to do her. I thought she would be great. But her husband is an up and coming coach trying to climb the ladder and become a head coach. And she said, I trust you. We both do. But what if I say something that's completely innocent and people take it out of context
Yeah.
and it becomes this thing that tarnishes my husband's image? And I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I get it.
Yeah.
So there's always that too. You don't want to do anything. Like even Anthony, when I told him I wanted to do this, he said, okay, that's a good idea, but how does this affect me?
Yeah.
Sir, it's not. But
Yeah.
I have to be mindful of that too. I
Right.
can't ask something of somebody else's wife that puts him in a bad position with me.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's always post-editing, so
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you. Yeah,
I
we can
take that
always
out. The Lynn Family Foundation, you had mentioned it. What a great foundation that you guys have had for many years. It helps individuals recognize and achieve their potential in their personal and professional lives. So, talk about some of the things you guys have had this with all the different teams that you've been a part of. So, using the Lynn Family Foundation and reaching out to each community and all these cities you've lived in, what has that been like? And then, what has been the reaction from those receiving?
It has been impactful in a way that I don't think I ever could have imagined. We
Yeah.
started it, I think, about 8 years ago. Um, so we have a couple of big, pillars that we use. We have a school in Africa that we sponsor. So that was just life-changing. We took the whole family over about 7 years ago and visited the school and dedicated the library and met the kids there. We still keep in touch with them. We don't get back as much as we'd like to, But, we do that. We have a boys group in Los Angeles that we work with because we were there for a long time. So it's just boys who don't have a father figure in their lives. And you teach them everything that a father would teach them. We have a group in the Dallas area because we're, from Dallas and that's home to us.
Mhm.
But he's from Dallas, so it's home. But we have a group called the Betty D. Gonzalez Foundation, Motherless Daughters. So it's the same thing, and my stepdaughter and I volunteer with motherless daughters. So
Mhm.
we're just there. We have a lot of pillars, but it's very important to us to give back, and it's been rewarding. And it's
Mhm.
also been a great thing to see the various teams that we're with. They'll sometimes pitch in and say, here's a donation. We want to help out with what you guys are doing. So
Yeah.
the players are always great. Like they'll always sign an autograph that we can auction or sign a football, so everybody wants to do their part and give back. And it's been rewarding for all of us.
Yeah, was that the Hugs program?
Hugs
What
that's
is
an
that?
organization. I can't believe I forgot them. They are near and dear to us. They
Yeah.
help adults with disabilities. So it's a
Okay.
where adults with disabilities work. And the cafe is staffed. They're the waiters, the waitresses, the cooks. And that's dear to us because Anthony's niece, our niece, has a brain injury from a car accident.
Mm.
Who works here as a waitress. So it's given her a sense of like, adulthood, making some of her own money. The people love her. So that's one of our pillars too, is to donate to that organization and give back because we've seen how impactful it can be in our own lives.
I think it's wonderful. Scholarships are involved. Can people help with that? Can they donate if I link everything?
Oh yeah, you can always donate. Yes, we're getting ready to have a big golf tournament, so we love donations. If anybody wanted to fly in and golf and pay the fee, we'd love to
Yeah.
do that as well. Yeah, so I'll give you the link so you can link all of that stuff.
Yeah, that would be great. How about the foundation? I know a lot of people are like, where can I put my money? What are some, things that are doing good in the world and blessing other people? So this is one of them for those of you who are watching.
And I'll add this too. We don't have a lot of overhead. Like my stepdaughter runs the foundation. So
Mhm.
that's it. She runs it and Anthony and I consult on what to do, but it's not like we have 5 people that we have to pay, a salary to. So that makes
Right.
a difference as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful because you can put it all right back in there and then,
Yeah.
return it with scholarships or what have you. Um, so I want to circle back to the beginning with congratulations to the Washington Commanders. Stacey, that is awesome. I had text her and I'm like, "Do you want to be on my podcast?" And I said, "By the way, I was cheering from you. I won't tell anybody." No, I'm kidding. The Browns, we got a long way to go, so it doesn't matter. I got to pick another team at the moment. So I'm going I'm going with the Commanders. So hearing from your husband or whatever, or what was the talk? How did this was like over 30 years in the making, right? To get to the NFC championship.
It was crazy. And when we started with this team, because this is our first year. So we went from like last year, we were with the 49ers and we went to the Super Bowl. So we come here and I'm thinking, okay, we might win 6 games and that'll be an improvement on last year. That's fine. We'll be on vacation by January 10th. What? So we keep winning. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, we are really about to make the playoffs. So, then you think he's all like, Anthony's very like, he's very low key and he's very confident. And it's always any given Sunday. And
Mhm.
there will be teams that I will think we don't have a snowball's chance in hell. And he'll be like, we got this. Never a doubt in my mind. Like, never a doubt in my mind.
That's
So
crazy.
so you get there and you make the playoffs, and I'm thinking, okay, this is really cool. So we'll make the playoffs. And, after that, we got to play Detroit. So, we'll just be happy with this one playoff win. Well, then we make it to Detroit. Okay. So then I'm really thinking, oh, this was fun, but, the vacation will start next week. He'll be home. Then we beat Detroit.
That was so crazy. I followed the Lions just because my older brother, so he's a big Lions fan, but
Yeah.
oh my God, it was crazy. He was disappointed.
I was, and we lived there. We did a year there. So like
That's
I
right.
have a lot of friends on that team. I love Holly Campbell, like Dan's wife. She's one of my fingers crossed for my podcast. I'm still working on it. But I just thought, that's a tough team. That's a tough place to stay. There is no way we go into this stadium in this town with this team hungry for the Super Bowl. And you just, you never know.
Oh my gosh.
So it's been fun, but then the next week, my God, who did we play the next week? Oh, it was Philly. And so that was
Yes.
the game where he was like, I'm a little bit concerned, we'll see. So I'm like, yeah, me too. And I will be going to Philly. You guys have fun, but I am not going. I'll see you when you get home. Um, Everybody close to me knows I sometimes get really nervous with games, and so I won't watch. I'll walk away, I clean, I vacuum, whatever.
That is my sister-in-law in a nutshell because my brother's a head coach right now. So I said, "Did you just see that play?" She's like, "Right now I'm pacing it in the kitchen."
That's me. Yeah, that is me. I can't do it. So the Eagles game, I told everyone close to me, I said, I'm turning off my phone. I'm going into the cone of silence. I will text you in 3.5 hours because I can't do this. So I can always tell if I walk away from my phone and I go back to it, whether we've won or lost. Because if we're winning, I have 20 texts. If we're losing, like after that game, I had one text. So I turn my phone over and it's one text. I'm like, well, we lost. What can I do?
Shoot. You already know by the text threads.
Oh, I know. I don't even have to read the text. I just know by the number of texts that I.
God.
So, it's been such a fun ride, and I don't.
Yeah.
I know they were disappointed. Like he got home, and they were disappointed, and that's when I have to say, okay, I have to let him be disappointed and live in this, even though I want to do the typical. You had a great season. Nobody saw us going this far. He don't. He doesn't want to hear that right after.
Yeah.
So I got to let him have his moment, and then in a day or so, he comes around. Like
Yeah.
my stepdaughter has a thing. He gets 1 or 2 days to be disappointed about it, and then we have to move on. It's really one because in the season, you lose Sunday, you're back at work Monday prepping for another team. So you have Sunday evening to deal with your disappointment, and then it's a wrap. We got to move on.
Yeah, that's a really good point for it for anything in life. Um,
Move on.
yes. So are you going to the Super Bowl? Is that a thing? Like once you guys lose, or does kind of all the wives go and it's kind of a party?
A lot of people do. Last year was my first Super Bowl experience. He had been to the Super Bowl as a player, and it took him 20 plus years to get back. So last year was my first experience, and I loved it because there are so many parties, there are fashion shows,
Yeah.
you get to see, it's like a reunion. But
Yeah.
we typically do not go if our team is not in it. And I can't say that's a bad thing because it's so crowded and there's so much going on. It's fun if you're a part of it, but otherwise, I don't know if I'd want to deal with all of it.
Yeah, just watching it. Um, and you talk about being a part of it. One of your newest podcasts is with Yolanda Merritt, which is the wife of defensive backs coach David Merritt for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so she's probably in New Orleans or heading there now for Super Bowl 59. So what is she saying? Like, is this kind of, I mean, she's obviously been there before. So you just talked to her on the podcast. What can we expect to hear from her on SuperWives of the NFL?
She's so funny. She's a good friend of mine, but they have been, I want to say she said this was her husband's like sixth Super Bowl or something. They went to two with the Giants, and this is their fourth with Kansas City. Like I cannot even imagine. And she talks about how they've been to so many Super Bowls. They have 4 kids. The 3 oldest don't want to go this year. We're good. Like, no, we like, can you imagine?
Been there, done that.
Yeah, like it's a Super Bowl. We're good. So but just we talk a lot about what it takes to sustain that type of, the way that they went year after year after year. And the one thing that I said, and I believe this, I think when a team has been to a Super Bowl, they're hungry to get back there. And because you know what it's like. So there's a different level of like, I don't know, drive or I don't know what it is, but once you've been there and you taste it, it's like, you got to get back there. So
Yeah.
he talked about that a little bit too, and just the cost of the other thing with being married to a coach or a player, everybody thinks the tickets are free. There are no free tickets. So the people,
Really?
no, every ticket is accounted for. So you honestly have people coming out of the woodworks. Can I get it? No, you cannot. Like, no,
Yep.
I'm sorry, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's harder for my husband is getting better. It's harder for him to say no. I am the no police. I do not care. The answer is no. Have a great day. I don't give a no. Um, so that's like we went last year and we had the option to purchase 9 tickets. But you have to purchase them. And
Yeah.
so we purchased all 9 and took family members. because he said, I don't know when I'm going back. So we'll do it this time because I may not get back here for 20 years. Yeah, but the teams typically, like Yolanda, I think the team will fly them out on a team charter Friday. This is the
Fun. Yes.
fly you out and they do all of these fun, like there's a party night so the guys can see the families because you actually stay at a separate hotel. The family can't stay with the players and coaches. And then after the Super Bowl, win or lose, typically there's a big party to celebrate the win or the season. And then she talks in the podcast about how last year at the party, Taylor was there and her daughter got to take a picture with Taylor Swift.
Oh, how exciting. I thought, is she going to spill any tea on Taylor Swift since everybody's all buddy-buddy?
Yeah, I know. She just talked about how Taylor, she just thinks she wants to be like a normal person and how when she's around in that element with Travis, when it's just the team, people allow her to just be normal.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then she talks a little bit about how we joked about this. Taylor made the guys and the coaches on the team Pop-Tarts as a victory celebration. So I saw it on Threads and I saw a picture of her husband and I said, Anthony, you got to see this. Dave Merritt made Threads, because Taylor made Pop-Tarts for him. And he looks at the post and he's like, she made those for everybody. I don't think they were just for Dave. So sure enough, that's what Yolanda said. She's like, calm down. She does this for everybody. But he's like, I'm special because Taylor.
If you just post it on your social media, nobody will ever know.
Well, it's just for you. So it's you and Taylor. You got
That is so funny. It's been fun to watch all of that. My family's in Springfield, Missouri. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go with the Chiefs for the Super Bowl this year.
I'll say this too, like Tammy Reed, who is just, and I've said this, I think she is the GOAT of head coaches' wives. I would love to have her on the podcast. And she's another one who's like, oh, I don't like stuff like this. Ask me later. So I'm going to give her a couple of weeks after the Super Bowl, then I'm going to ask her again. So,
yes, she would be. Yes. And Tavia Hunt, she would be great. Yeah. I've been trying to get her. So if you get my niece knows her just from the pageant system. Like they've talked a couple times. That's it. I don't know if we should use the word know her. But and then I knew somebody else said, so I emailed her, but I haven't really heard anything. They're a little bit busy.
They're busy now.
Yes, but how fun. Well, Stacey, I think this is so awesome. I'm proud of you, which doesn't mean anything. But I know starting a podcast is hard because I'm in the same boat. And I think you are the chosen one to tell all these stories. And I think it's so important for people to know about the other half of all these wonderful players and coaches and the life that they live and the great things that they do, for the community, just like yourself. So I am excited for you. I will link everything. It is SuperWives of the NFL. It's on wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out. And also the Lynn Family Foundation. If you would like to donate, help out, research, I will link that too, because I think that's just such a great opportunity for all of us to kind of help out that situation and help these kids out, this next generation, right?
Yes, Christy, thank you. This was so much fun. Cleveland has such a special place in my heart. I'm going to get choked up thinking about it. But it's home. Everybody there is such good people. And, I just love you guys to death. So even though I don't come back to visit a lot because life keeps me busy.
I know.
I'm a diehard Cleveland fan.
Well, I know you are missed. It's funny because I this past week, I'm like, I have Stacey Bell on my podcast. I have Stacey Bell. They're like, tell her we said hi, because everybody is the same there, Stacey. Like nobody's left.
That is
everybody's still there.
Well, it's a good place. Don't leave unless something a lot better comes along.
I know. That's what everybody says. So I will listen to you. Thanks, Stace. All the best.
Thank you, Christy, for having me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.